I'm very delighted to be here to talk to you all from a slightly different perspective than our other very eminent speakers. I'm speaking to you as a breeder, a long-time owner of French Bulldogs, 30 years I've had Frenchies. I'm a judge, international judge of Frenchies. I'm also the president of the French Bulldog Club of England, and I am the breed health coordinator to the Kennel Club for the breed. When French Bulldogs, I've got to give you a little bit of background to what I'm going to actually talk about. I think that must be the next one. This slide is horrendous. This shows the registration of French Bulldogs in the UK from 2006 to the present day. As you can see, the number of Frenchies, we had a very level registration of around 500 or less puppies born a year. 2015, we're nearly 15,000 Frenchies. That is horrendous. Now, when you look at 2009, that is when alarm bells started to ring, certainly in my head, and I took that to the clubs. And I said, we have to do something now. We'll never stop people breeding French Bulldogs because they're such a delightful breed. But what we have to do is educate them. Educate them to produce healthy French Bulldogs. So we needed to protect the future of our breed. We had to look at a way we were going to do this, and how we were going to do it was through education. Absolutely is the key to helping and keeping our breed as healthy and as fit as we could. So we decided that all breeders, owners and judges needed to understand the conformation problems we had and the genetic health problems that could exist in our breed. So what did we do? We looked at the past and we looked to the future. We looked at breed standards across the world and saw how they differed and how we could improve them, because interpretation of a breed standard is very varied. We looked at the general perception. We asked people, breeders and owners, what they thought was wrong with the breed. We looked at the Kennel Club watch points, the points of special interest of the breed. We looked at health surveys, including the early Swedish surveys, the early American surveys, the surveys that were done in the UK, and our own breed club health survey. And we sought veterinary opinion. Okay, so then we went on to develop our scheme, and there were certain points that it had to adhere to. Basically, it wasn't a health scheme, it was an education scheme. It had to be based on veterinary evidence. It had to be open to every French Bulldog. It doesn't matter what colour it was or what age it was. They had to be over 12 months, but it didn't matter. They had to be open to everybody. It had to be very easy to understand and promote, because us breeders are busy people. We don't necessarily want to do hundreds of tests and travel hundreds of miles to one specific person. So it had to be very easy to understand. We had to have a method of collecting the data centrally, which is my job, one of my jobs, and it takes up a lot of time. It had to be very flexible, which means that we needed to keep the scheme alive and changing as we needed to. We had to incorporate in the UK the existing schemes, the HIP schemes and the eye schemes, if they were required. And sadly, we had to build in some form of prevention for fraud, because with computers you can copy certificates and things. So we had to build in a fraudulent prevention thing. So the key to the success of the whole scheme, the tests had to be non-invasive, because none of us with brachycephalic breeds particularly want to put our dogs under anaesthetic. So that would be a no-no for a lot of breeders. They would say, I'm not doing that test because I have to have my dog anaesthetised. They had to be inexpensive. They had to be cheap enough for people to be able to afford to test half a dozen dogs. They had to be readily available. As I said, you didn't have to travel 300 miles to a special clinic. And another point, they had to be actually achievable, because there's nothing worse than setting up a scheme and failing at the first hurdle. So we made our basic level an achievable level. In actual fact, we didn't give our basic level a pass or a fail. The idea was you went off, you had your basic level tests done, and from that, you then had the knowledge of your dog and its health problems. And it was up to you to decide what you were going to do with it. Obviously, minimal sedation, which I've already touched on. And the scheme needed to be based on some form of reward. You know, you had to have the carrot, not the stick. So the reward was the certificates. We issued them with a certificate saying they had participated in the scheme. And then obviously I would publish not the full results, but the dog's name, the owner's name, and what level of the scheme it had achieved. That was there on the website for people to look at. I didn't publish the full results because that would have, again, stopped people actually participating. Then peer pressure came into play, because once one person starts having their dogs tested and saying, my dogs have achieved this, the breeder next door is thinking, I need to sell my puppies. Why am I not selling my puppies? Why is someone not using my stud dog? Because that person over there has gone through the health test. So peer pressure was crucial, and it works. So we developed the health scheme, and it has 3 levels, plus an award of merit at the end. Our basic level is the bronze level scheme, and you will find over there a sheet which actually details what the scheme involves. The requirements for that was that the dog had to be over a year old, and it had to be microchipped and easily identifiable. The silver level, we then incorporated things like the DNA tests and the cardiology tests. We took it in small bites. If you give breeders this huge list, they're going to go, no, 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 no. But you give them little bites, little steps, and it encourages them. They do the basic level, the bronze level first, and then they right, I'm now going to aim for my silver level certificate. And we have resistance at the gold level, but we're working on that one. And then we did give breeders the Stud Dog or Brood Bitch of Merit Award. And that was for the dogs themselves that then were producing over 3 or 4 litters offspring that had also passed the test at various levels. So that would be a major achievement for a breeder. This is the basic veterinary examination at the bronze level. We record the pedigree details of the dog, the names of the owners, the ID of the dog, the weight of the dog, the age of the dog. We also ask for the body score, so we know what the weight of the condition of the dog is, and then we go through the list. Basic heart test, just the vet listens to the test, but they're going to pick up any abnormalities. The veterinary assessment of the eyes, simple. The vet doesn't need to. Only thing he uses is he may do when he does the swimmer test for the production of tears. He looks at the eyes. Visual assessment of the skin. Are there any skin problems? Have a look in the ears. Tell us if we've got narrow ear canals, etc. We grade the patellas. That's automatic. Everyone wants to have the dog's patellas scored. Very simple test to do. We obviously look at whether the dog's got a tail, testes and temperament, obviously. Spine-wise, at this level, we're not asking for x-rays or anything because that requires additional anaesthetic, etc., which will put people off doing the more important tests at this level. But we just ask the vet to do just a palpable examination to tell us if there's an extreme kyphosis or extreme scoliosis. And then, of course, we have the BOAS and Nostril grading, which is what really we're actually focusing on at the moment. When the test first started, we didn't have this functional BOAS test. We just asked the vets to listen to the dog's breathing, tell us whether it was very good, good or poor, then exercise the dog, and then repeat it. So it was a very subjective thing, you know, it wasn't robust enough. But I have data on over 700 dogs in that format. And then, with the help of David and the Cambridge team, they developed for us a functional grading system. And this I was so excited about. This meant that any vet, anywhere, could follow these instructions and grade the dog for us. Yes, we know, again, it is subjective, but it gives a very good clinical review of the dog's health at that point. And to date, over 200 French Bulldogs have been functionally assessed through this test. And obviously, as I said, I've got data on over another 700. So this is the health research that we've been helping Cambridge with. When David first approached me at a conference, I was so excited about it, of what it could do for our breed and the other brachycephalics. And obviously, David has said that they're doing relationships between the head shapes, etc., and the genetic work. But obviously, the long-term aim of the studies that we're doing is to improve the health and welfare of these brachycephalic breeds, which as breeders has always been our aim. You know, we're not oblivious to it. We have the wonderful vets and geneticists helping us with their surgical techniques and explaining to us the physical problems that we have. But we can still do something as breeders from the other end. We want to prevent the vets. We want to put them out of business. We don't want them to be doing all these surgical procedures. I won't say I want to put David out of business, because if he develops some sort of DNA marker for us, that will be tremendous. So on to BOAS grading now. This grading is obviously based on the respiratory signs before and after exercise. And it is performed by the vet. And as David said, speed approximately, I'm in miles, I'm afraid, 4 to 5 miles an hour for 3 minutes. And that's a trotting speed. And obviously, if the dog refuses or has it can't exercise, the test fails. So that is quite important. So this is the parameters that the vets work to, and there are the sheets over there, if you haven't picked them up, which actually tells you. So grade 1, we have no noise and no clinical signs of being unable to breathe. Grade 0, sorry. Grade 1, again, is very good. They only may have very mild noise after exercise. They're acceptable, and I think they should be acceptable across all the brachycephalic breeds. Grade 2, we're getting a little bit of respiratory noise and some clinical signs after exercise. At the present time, we will accept for our next level testing a grade 0, grade 1 and grade 2. But very shortly, it's going to drop down to grade 0 and grade 1. As I say, it's a gradual progression, and I'm going to use the expression, we're turning the screw a little tighter, if you, yeah. Grade 3 is, oh, God help us, this dog might be dead it's going to need surgery. So this is the reference which we give to the vets. Grade 0, the animal is clinically BOAS free, and we ask the vets to suggest, if the dog is under 2 years old, that it has a further test, because BOAS is progressive. Up to the age of about 3. So we don't just say, because your dog is clear at 1, it's going to be, clear at 3. Grade 1 affected, we again suggest if the dog is under 2, that it has another review. Grade 2, then we're asking the vets to suggest to the owner that they have some sort of veterinary management. It may just mean reducing the weight of the dog. That is important. It may mean surgical intervention. And grade 3 is almost always referred for surgical intervention. So that is our reference. It's all very simple for people to understand, breeders and vets. And we give all this information to the breeder to take with them to the vet. So these are the results of the last 200 dogs that have gone through with the BOAS grading, which you can see the bottom two lines, grade 0 and grade 1, are actually very encouraging for this particular sample. I will say that, and you'll all understand where I'm coming from as a breeder, that not all breeders will send us the bad results. You know, that is something we have to live with. But, you know, I do get a few through. So you can see the difference between, you know, the BOAS grade 3, only 2 dogs out of the 200 were graded 3, 15 dogs were graded BOAS 2, and 116 BOAS 1 and 67 BOAS 0. I want those figures to improve, and the only way they're going to improve is we keep on with the education. We also do nostril grading, and this was introduced probably 3 or 4 years ago into our judges' education. We wanted judges to be able to recognise what open nostrils for our breed was. We're not beagles, we're not scent hounds, we don't have huge open nostrils. So grade 1, we're all aiming for lovely open nostrils. And I must admit, when Gerhard put his slides up for nostrils, I very quickly checked mine were in line with his. Grade 2, which is mild stenosis, which the majority of French Bulldogs have. I will say that. Slight narrowing of the nostrils, but they are mobile. The nostrils are mobile and they can flare. Grade 3, moderate stenosis, not acceptable. If it's accompanied by any other signs of breathing, mouth breathing, they are not acceptable. And we're trying to bring this point very much into the judge's domain and the breeder's domain. Really, they're not acceptable. We're not vets. We don't know what's inside our dogs, but we see what's outside. And as breeders, we can make the right selections. So we don't want to see this in the show ring. And obviously, grade 4, totally not acceptable. If anyone, in my opinion, if anyone bred from a dog with nostrils that bad, that had shown clinical signs of respiration, I personally would like to shoot them. But there we go. Breeders must take responsibility. And we are doing, in the UK, we are actually owning our problems and doing something about it. And we have done, we're in our 6th year now, of actually trying to educate these people. These are our nostril grading results, and as you can see, typically, majority of them are grade 2, which is slightly stenosed. These dogs are able to breathe and run round, but I want to see them all grade 1 open. That'll be a few years down the line. But our grade 4s are minimal, and our grade 3s, not too bad. I will say in some of the results that I've had dogs with grade 3 nostrils, stenosed nostrils, but with a grade 0 BOAS score. So, you know, it doesn't always run entirely to form. You always get those that are just the odd ones. But they were probably very fit dogs that weren't heavy and they could well exercise. That is very important. So I'm nearly finished, and normally I talk for hours. We also recorded, which is interesting, I'm going slightly away from the breathing side of things, the ocular findings that we found that could be associated with BOAS. And out of the 21 out of my 200 dogs actually presented with adnexal eye problems. Entropion, 6 with 3%. Enlarged third eyelid, effect, and excess tearing. So these may be connected to the excess folds, facial folds, the very short nose. So although I have all this data, I'm not a statistician and I'm not a vet, and I can only make take very simple conclusions from it. I need some expert guidance, which I do work very closely with vets. I do, and I listen to what they say and I try and incorporate things in. So our priorities in the UK, to educate the breeders and the judges. As you know, judges put up what's presented in the ring, breeders bring into the ring what judges want. It's that circle. We need to have brave judges who will not put up dogs that have any sign of breathing difficulties, that are I'm not saying dismiss entirely a beautiful specimen because it's got pinched nostrils. I'm saying just don't award it the top honours. You know, don't award. Somewhere along the line, we have to make a statement. Judges and breeders have to make a statement, because then, only then, will the other side start sitting up and taking notice. You know, God knows what entry I'll get when I next judge. I tell you, oh, she won't do this. So obviously, our priorities at the moment for Frenchies in the UK is to improve the breathing and the nostrils, and also spinal health and tails, which tails have improved and in the UK. 10 years ago, very hard to find a French Bulldog with a tail, but we've had imports come in and they've brought us tails. I'm so pleased about that. 25 years ago, I wrote my first article on where the tail had gone, and it's only now breeders are saying, we need to breed for a tail. I said this 25 years ago. And spinal health, I'm going off a little bit. It is important. It's all part of the breeds that we love so much. It's trying to get over the fears that breeders have of X-raying or putting their dogs under sedation. We're trying various things, and I'm in talks now with Glasgow Veterinary School about ways of imaging the spine that don't require sedation. I will say my background is in imaging. I'm not a vet, I'm not a doctor, I was a radiographer, so my background is in imaging, and I understand imaging techniques, and I've got a reasonable knowledge of human anatomy, which I've applied to dogs. So that has helped me in my passion for health. So the conclusion is we all want healthy Frenchies, all of us. But to get healthy Frenchies, we have to have cooperation and education, flowing both ways. We have to have, most importantly, owner and breeder education. And we need feedback from breeders. We need judges' education. I put in a health scheme. We need a health scheme, because how can we monitor what's going on? How can people understand unless we give them some sort of a goal to aim for? And research. Research is so important. We must welcome research. We mustn't be frightened of research. I know when David first approached me, I had other senior judges and breeders from other brachycephalic breeds say to me, don't get involved with that. Don't let Frenchies get involved with that. And I said, why? Oh, well, you know, they're going to make your noses out here. And I said, my opinion on that is, if we need to lengthen our nose, their research is going to tell us. And surely that is a win-win situation for the dog. You know, we may have to adapt the conformation a little bit, but then on the other hand, if they prove we don't, that's a win situation. So you need to get involved in research with an open mind. You really do. And this is how I approached, didn't I, David? David knows that's how I came into it, and how I managed to convince a lot of people to join in with it, get involved. And as I say, I'm already involved in setting up talks with spinal research programs and gliomas. I think one of the vets mentioned earlier that gliomas were very common in, becoming more common in Frenchies. Well, I've been talking to a neurologist in, 1 minute, I'm nearly finished. Thank you. I told you, I talk for hours if you let me go. Anyway, this is my last slide, and this is what we're all aiming for. Fabulous Frenchies, fit for function and fit for the future. There we go. That's it. That's me.